It's 98.7 FM and 98.7fm.com. Joining me on the phone right now is someone I have a ton of questions for. She has a new book out. Laura Day, how are you today?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for coming on. Your new book, you have several books, but your latest book out is called How to Rule the World from Your Couch.
Yes, it's really about how to use intuition to create your future basically from your couch. So to see what's going to happen and to use your ability to communicate with others non-locally to create results.
Tell me what's the difference between a psychic and, you don't like to be called a psychic. You're an intuitionist. Is that what you'd call it?
I call myself an intuitive. What I don't like about the word psychic is that it means a lot of very odd things. What is a psychic really? It doesn't mean anything. Whereas studies in the human mind's ability to, for example, send a message over a distance or create a result or predict the future or move an object from a distance, those studies have been done at the university level for over 60 years and documented. Mm-hmm. So what I do is really working with a capacity that every human being has to use their mind in a different way to be able to create results.
Okay, so my first question is then, when did you know, or how were you able to harness this intuition of yours?
Young people never think they're different. So around 20, when I started being tested by universities, this is the 1970s, who were really interested in what the human mind could do, so extended perceptions, I realized that everyone didn't realize they could do this, because everyone can do this. A successful stock trader is a successful intuitive. Mm-hmm. A successful surgeon is a successful intuitive. Anyone who's successful, a successful lover is a successful intuitive. Anyone who is successful is intuitive, because we've all basically got the same stuff. It's the ability to see ahead, to communicate with your environment, to predict other people's actions that gives you the edge. So I really realized when I was around 21 that people didn't realize they had this ability, and then went about training people. And
we're talking with Laura Day. Her new book out is called How to Rule the World from Your Couch. Tell me how someone like myself, who, everybody gets those gut feelings like, oh man, I knew that, or they have glimpses of those intuitive feelings. How do we harness that on a daily basis?
Well, the most important thing to do is, first of all, differentiate between feeling and intuition, because intuition is data. You get a very clear sense of something. Feeling could be doom because you didn't eat breakfast. So one of the most important things is to know what your questions are, and in intuition we call them targets. So know what your goals and your questions are, and document the things that come in from left field. So you're doing the dishes and you get the sense you should sell a stock. You go on the computer, you look at things, everything looks normal. You still get that feeling you've made 30% on that stock. There's no real downside to selling it. You may as well sell, and then it crashes 2 weeks later. Mm-hmm. But you document that, and what you'll see is that time and time again you're correct. What How to Rule the World from Your Couch does is it takes apart the different ways your brain uses intuition and really trains you in a way that you can, as you're using it, also document what you're doing, so that you can see that when you send a message to somebody in a certain way, using only your mind, that they actually take an action. Or when you look at a situation using your mind's eye, you actually accurately describe it. Because one of the problems, you asked what I don't like about the word psychic. Mm-hmm. The only difference between psychic and psychotic is that your information is right. Otherwise, you're seeing things other people don't see, and you're hearing things other people don't hear. So it's very important to stick to facts, especially when you're doing anything that's alternative.
Going back to what you're saying about doing the dishes, you have a feeling about that stock.
Not feeling. You have an intuition or perception.
Right. I need to start using that word. Okay, you have the intuition that I need to sell this stock, or I need to buy this stock. How do we ignore the feeling or ignore the intuition? I guess maybe feeling takes over, because I'll get that, and then you second guess.
Right. You second guess all the time. That's why it's very good to have a training like How to Rule the World from Your Couch, because what you notice is, the first time you touch a hot stove, you touch a hot stove. Nothing's stopping you. Mm-hmm. The second time you think twice. The third time you don't do it. And so to some degree, it's training, and you become, once you train your intuition, you become adverse to ignoring it. The mind is a very messy place, so unless you do something like How to Rule the World from Your Couch, it's very hard to take the intuition out of the rest of the mess of everybody's human mind and actually employ it. And the other thing that helps is to, both for intellect and intuition, is know your questions. I mean, people talk about hard scientific data, but hard scientific data, we find out all the time, can be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things intuition helps you do is sort the data that's right and the data that's wrong. Once again, how do you know you're using it? You document, and what happens is it becomes part of your natural internal process to select correct data. How do you know that? You don't make mistakes.
Talking with Laura Day, author of How to Rule the World from Your Couch. Laura, you have quite the list of those that you've helped. Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston, Demi Moore, Nicole Kidman, the list goes on. Actually, Brad Pitt...
But let's forget James Watson, who won the Nobel Prize. It's so not interesting, right?
No, we want the A-listers, right?
That's right.
Yeah, Brad Pitt actually said, "I believe in the gut. I believe in Laura Day." So with that in mind, and speaking of celebs, I want to put you to the test. Now, with the Oscars coming up, for example, Best Picture, can you look at who's nominated, or with the Grammys, and say, "I have a feeling, I have an intuition about this," and make an accurate prediction?
I can. So can you. That's what How to Rule the World from Your Couch teaches you. What I don't do, however, I'll tell you my soapbox is that I've been doing this and been tested in intuition for over 30 years, and I think it's very dangerous for people to go to psychics, which is why I do not do private sessions. I train people to do it in community for one another. And I really think that people need to find this in themselves, use this in community, and not do parlor tricks. I am not the great intuitive. Everybody has this ability, and if you hone it and you want to, put a good bet on the next Super Bowl or put some money on whatever, I didn't even know the Oscars or whatever is coming up.
Right.
People tend to be intuitive about what they're interested in. That's not my area of interest. Mm-hmm. What my son should be doing to prepare for college next year, my area of interest. And I think that it's very important for people to do this for themselves. If you look at all those predictions that people make in papers for all the celebrities for the year, they're rarely accurate. And they're rarely accurate because they're doing it with the wrong agenda. When I work for a company, for example, often I'm offered a piece of the action. I can't take a piece of the action because once I do, my subconscious is invested in a certain outcome. Mm-hmm. So one of the things with intuition that's very important is to stay very ethical, clean, and clear with what you're doing. Not because it's the right thing to do, but because it interferes with your ability